Organized crime has infested all parts of the globe, with vast profits earned from drug trafficking, extortion, the plundering of natural resources, etc. Organized criminal networks have managed to spread their influence to the highest levels of society, including leaders, government officials, and influential business figures. This infiltration undermines democratic institutions and erodes public trust, as corrupt practices become normalized within political and economic systems. Organized crime groups leverage their wealth to exert pressure and gain favors, often manipulating laws and regulations to their advantage. The aversive nature of organized crime not only threatens security, but also compromises the rule of law, making it increasingly challenging for authorities to combat these powerful entities effectively. That being said, here are the top 10 most powerful criminal organizations in 2025, in my personal opinion. Number 10, the Bamboo Union. With approximately 20,000 members, the Bamboo Union is the largest triad on the island of Taiwan, formed by the anti-communist Kuomintang, who fled to the island after the communist takeover of China in 1949. Very quickly, members of the Bamboo Union filled key positions in the emerging Taiwanese government and made up much of the rank and file of the military, police, and intelligence services. By the late 1960s, the Bamboo Union started supplementing its political activities with criminal activities as they started to venture into illegal activities such as drug trafficking, gambling, and prostitution. By the 1980s, the Bamboo Union went on to control a large share of the global heroin trade. That same decade, they were involved in the assassination of anti-Kuomintang journalist Henry Liu, who was gunned down in San Francisco in 1984. In recent years, the group has expanded into running scam centers throughout Southeast Asia and is even said to be a key supplier of precursor chemicals used by Mexican cartels to produce synthetic drugs such as fentanyl. Despite the group's past anti-communist stance, in recent years the Bamboo Union has become more supportive of China's efforts to retake Taiwan. In the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, it is thought that members of the Bamboo Union will be mobilized by Beijing to assist in the invasion and capture key checkpoints. The motivation for the switch of allegiance to China by the Bamboo Union is purely financial, as the Chinese are willing to reward the group with their loyalty. Whether this ever comes to fruition remains to be seen, but the Bamboo Union already has a strong presence through Taiwan's government apparatuses, and their assistance will greatly help any potential Chinese invasion should that happen in the future. Number 9, the Kinahan Cartel. The Irish Kinahan Cartel has grown into one of the most internationally powerful drug trafficking organizations in the past 2 decades. Led by Christy Kinahan and his sons Daniel and Christy Jr., the Kinahan Cartel since the late 1990s has been the prime mover of cocaine into Ireland, as well as playing a significant role in the British market. In 2017, the Kinahans allied with other criminal groups, such as the Dutch-Moroccan Mafia, the Italian Camorra, and the Bosnian Tito and Dino Cartel to form the so-called European Super Cartel, which is said to control up to a third of all cocaine being trafficked into and throughout Europe. The Kinahans are also said to have formed strong ties to hostile regimes and militant organizations through their money laundering networks. Most prominent of these groups is the Lebanese Shia group Hezbollah, which acts as a proxy for the Iranian regime. The Kinahans are said to have partnered with Hezbollah and the Iranians, as well as intelligence operatives from Russia, in the trafficking of cocaine into Europe. These funds from the sale of cocaine allow these groups to fund their political and military aims, and in return these groups assist the Kinahans in laundering their ill-gotten gains and providing them with protection should they ever need it. In 2022, the Kinahans became so prominent internationally that they were sanctioned by the United States Treasury Department for their role in international drug trafficking, along with their ties to groups hostile to the West. All 3 Kinahans are currently believed to be hiding in Dubai, as authorities in Ireland continue to investigate them and hopefully one day bring them back to face trial for their crimes. Number 8, Compania Bellow. Made up of 14 different Albanian criminal organizations, Compania Bellow has become one of the most powerful cocaine cartels on the planet. Compania Bellow has established strong ties with cartels in South America that produce cocaine, with many of its members being based out of countries such as Ecuador, which has become one of the main gateways for cocaine heading to Europe. Allying with powerful groups such as the Ndrangheta, Compania Bellow and other Albanian groups have become the dominant suppliers of cocaine into countries such as the United Kingdom, where they also play a key role in the production of illicit cannabis. They are heavily involved in the importation of massive shipments of cocaine into Dutch and Belgian ports that are then moved all across Europe. Compania Bellow's leader, Dritan Rezepi, also known as the King of Cocaine, is currently awaiting trial in Albania on a whole range of charges, charges, including cocaine trafficking and murder. Despite Regepi's arrest, Compania Bellow continues to traffic huge quantities of cocaine into Europe with its strong ties to Albanian diasporas across the continent, along with its powerful political connections that are said to go up to the highest levels of the Albanian government. Number 7. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Started in 1948 in Southern California by veterans of World War II, the Hells Angels has grown to be the largest and most iconic one-percenter motorcycle club of all time. Initially started as a club for motorcycle enthusiasts, by the 1970s the Hells Angels moved more heavily into criminal activities such as drug trafficking and extortion. This came at the same time as the Hells Angels started expanding internationally as they swallowed up much smaller motorcycle clubs throughout the world, to the point now where in 2025 they have approximately 600 chapters throughout the whole world, with 6,000 members in 66 different countries on 6 continents. These chapters engage in varying degrees of criminality, with many of them being major players in the international trafficking of cocaine and meth. A great example of this is Angelo Pandelli, the leader of the Australian Hells Angels, who is said to be part of a drug syndicate that is estimated to have smuggled more than $1 billion worth of drugs into Australia in recent years. In countries such as Canada and all across Europe, the Hells Angels have managed to oust traditional criminal organizations and become the dominant players in the criminal underworld as they continue to expand and bring more motorcycle clubs under their orbit. Number 6. The First Capital Command. The Brazilian First Capital Command, or in Portuguese, the Primeiro Comando de Capital, was formed in the wake of the massacre in Sao Paulo's Carandiru prison in 1992, where over 100 prisoners were killed by security forces following a riot. Officially formed by 8 prisoners in the Talbot prison in August 1993, the PCC was initially a prison gang advocating for better prison conditions and offered protection to other prisoners who joined its membership. It claimed to provide a sense of order in the chaotic and violent Brazilian penal system. However, as the PCC increased in size, it used its power to intimidate the prison system, the most notable example being in May 2006, when PCC members on the outside carried out massive attacks throughout the city of Sao Paulo against police targets. The attacks lasted for 4 days, and when it was all over, 564 people lay dead across the entire city. With its strength in numbers, the PCC also managed to muscle its way to the top of Brazil's criminal underworld. With members outside the walls of prisons, the PCC became very active in carrying out some of the largest bank robberies in Brazil's history, as well as expanding into the international cocaine trade. The PCC established contacts with powerful groups, such as the Colombian cartels producing cocaine, as well as with the Calabrian Ndrangheta, in order to facilitate massive shipments of cocaine for the European market. Establishing itself as one of the prime movers of cocaine to Europe, with control over Brazil's biggest ports, the PCC has rapidly expanded to every other country in Latin America and has even established cells in West African countries, which have become huge transshipment points for cocaine heading to Europe. Back in Brazil, the PCC has managed to heavily infiltrate politics and the legal economy, such as the fuel industry, which the PCC uses to launder its vast profits. According to Sao Paulo state authorities, the PCC has had a yearly revenue of at least $1 billion since 2020. Number 5. The 14K Triad. The 14K Chinese Triad was initially formed in the immediate aftermath of World War II as an anti-communist action group by Kuomintang Lieutenant General Katsu Wang. After the communist takeover of China in 1949, the 14K fled to British Hong Kong, where over the coming decades its numbers swelled, where now in 2025 they are said to have over 20,000 members operating globally in places such as the United States, Canada, Europe, and Australia, as well as being heavily involved in activities such as extortion, illegal gambling, and running illegal prostitution rings. 14K is one of the most dominant players in the Asia-Pacific meth trade, with affiliates of the Triad operating out of the Golden Triangle region of Southeast Asia, where they work with local warlords and rebels to operate meth labs that supplies the whole region with synthetic drugs. One notable example being Juan Kwok Khoi, the former leader of the Macau branch of the 14K, who in recent years has partnered up with local insurgent groups and even became the chairman of the Dong Mai group, which is said to operate a scam center where the workers are held hostage hostage, having been lured under false pretenses of legitimate work. Juan is also said to be heavily tied to the Chinese Communist Party and is said to have established casinos and cryptocurrency schemes across the Pacific Islands, most notably on the island nation of Palau. Juan and the 14K are said to be working in the interests of Beijing throughout the region to spread Chinese influence as they enjoy protection from the Chinese government from all of their criminal activities. Number 4. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or the CJNG, was formed in 2010 by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, a former member of the now-defunct Milenio Cartel, which handled drug shipments and finances for the Sinaloa Cartel. The CJNG has quickly risen to be seen as the most powerful cartel in Mexico, alongside the Sinaloans, with a brutality and viciousness that is appalling even by Mexican cartel standards, with attacks on police helicopters, forced recruitment of soldiers, and even accusations of cannibalism. The CJNG has gained a near monopoly over the trafficking of fentanyl into the United States, along with their rivals in the Sinaloa Cartel, generating tens of billions of dollars a year. Like the Sinaloans, the CJNG has also spread out across the globe into Australia and Europe. Labs manufacturing meth run by the CJNG have even been reported in India. Many experts believe that the CJNG will soon emerge as the most powerful Mexican drug cartel due to the infighting between the two most powerful factions of the Sinaloa Cartel. Number 3. Sam Gore. Sam Gore, also known as the Company, is the brainchild of Say Chi Law, often labeled as Asia's El Chapo. However, most would argue that Say and his group Sam Gore has far exceeded what El Chapo and his Sinaloan cartel have been able to achieve. Before forming Sam Gore, Say was a member of the Big Circle Boys, a Chinese triad with a strong base in Canada, where in the 1990s, Say established a massive heroin empire based out of Toronto and worked in conjunction with other powerful groups such as the Sicilian Rizzuto mob of Montreal. After serving a prison term in the late 90s and early 2000s, Say left Canada and relocated to Hong Kong, where he turned his attention from heroin to methamphetamine. Say was able to bring 3 of the most powerful Chinese triads, the 14K, Woshing Wo, Sun Yiyan, and Big Circle Boys, along with Taiwan's Bamboo Union, together as the group that would come to be known as Sam Gore, with himself as its leader. With the combination of the resources of all these powerful organizations and Say's business acumen, Sam Gore in a few years would go on to control 40 to 70% of the $90 billion Asia-Pacific drug trade. Working with groups based in Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle region, Sam Gore trafficked meth, ketamine, and fentanyl produced in remote labs in Myanmar across Asia and Australia. Sam Gore is said to be responsible for most of the meth hitting Australia's shores, when the country is currently said to be the most lucrative and expensive market for drugs throughout the world. Despite Sam Gore generating somewhere between $8 and $17 billion annually, Say was ultimately arrested in the Netherlands in 2021 and has now been extradited to Australia, where he is said to face charges for flooding the streets of Australia with synthetic drugs. Despite Say's arrest, Sam Gore continues to flourish and even recently has been reported operating marijuana plantations and fentanyl labs in Canada in conjunction with the Chinese Communist Party, who they have formed close ties with in order to generate vast profits for the coffers of the CCP, as well as offering money laundering services for other criminal groups. Number 2. The Sinaloa Cartel. The Sinaloa Cartel was born from the ashes of the Guadalajara Cartel in the late 1980s by Joaquin Guzman Loera, Ismael Zambada Garcia, Hector Palma Salazar, and Juan Jose Esparragoza Morena as a loose federation rather than a hierarchical organization. Initially focused on trafficking marijuana into the United States, the Sinaloa Cartel eventually started focusing on trafficking different drugs, such as cocaine and meth, using innovative methods such as underground tunnels and submarines. The cartel in recent years has moved heavily into fentanyl, becoming the key supplier of the drug into the American market, along with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The cartel has established close ties with groups in China to smuggle precursor chemicals into Mexico. The Sinaloa Cartel has managed to penetrate drug markets across the world in places as far away as Australia and Europe, generating tens of billions of dollars a year, some of which is funded back in the Mexican political system, where high-ranking Mexican politicians have for years shielded some of the top members of the Sinaloa Cartel from prosecution or arrest. Even though the cartel is currently going through a schism with its two largest factions, Los Chapitos, led by the sons of El Chapo, and La Maiza, led by the sons of El Mayo, they are still at the top of the pecking order of the Mexican cartels and continue to flood the United States and countries all across the world with fentanyl, meth, and cocaine without issue. Number 1. The Ndrangheta. The Ndrangheta traces its roots back to 19th century Calabria, but remained in the shadows of its better-known counterparts, the Sicilian Cosa Nostra and the Neapolitan Camorra. A secretive and discreet organization made up of family and blood relationships, the Ndrangheta first gained prominence in the 1960s when it wreaked terror all across Italy with a spat of kidnappings of wealthy individuals, most notably the 1973 kidnapping of the grandson of J. Paul Getty, the richest man in the world at the time. The Ndrangheta managed to use these lucrative ransoms as capital seed for entering the cocaine industry, which they made their primary source of revenue once the 1980s hit. The Ndrangheta has emerged as the most dominant of the Italian mafias, with Italian police estimating they control up to 80% of Europe's cocaine market, with estimates placing their annual turnover at 53 billion euros or $59 billion. The Ndrangheta has spread all across the globe from Calabria to places such as Canada, Australia, Germany, Colombia, and even West Africa. Members of the Ndrangheta, known as Ndrangetistas, have managed to blend into society, with many of them appearing on the surface as legitimate businessmen that managed to obtain influence with powerful government officials across Europe. Ndrangheta cells in small cities across the Calabria region of southern Italy have managed to become de facto heads of state, as local politicians and police are unable or unwilling to counteract the influence of the Ndrangheta in their small towns, where strong family links with other influential members of the city allows Ndrangetistas to avoid fear of witnesses cooperating against them. With members based all across the world cultivating massive property portfolios to launder the vast illicit profits of the group, the Ndrangheta continues to grow in strength and power with the support of its hundreds of cells in every corner of the globe. And that is my list of who I think are the top 10 most powerful criminal organizations throughout the world in 2025. Feel free to shoot me your opinions on this list in the comments below, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.